Hey there, and welcome to Business Over Cocktails. I'm Lauren Najar, your host and hype woman, bringing you real talk about entrepreneurship. This is the podcast where we dive into the bold whys, the messy middles, and the game-changing aha moments that lead to success. You'll hear unfiltered stories from entrepreneurs, plus bite-sized solo episodes inside the Business Chaser series, where we cut through the noise and get straight to what actually drives sales, visibility, and growth. So whether you're here to get fired up or finally feel seen in your business journey, pull up a seat, pour your favorite drink, and let's have a real conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Business Over Cocktails. I'm Lauren Najar, and today I have Steph Rubio here. She is an operations and strategy ninja, self-described. But she's also described as a ops and strategy unicorn, just someone that can really take your tasks and really just get you from surviving to thriving mode. Steph, welcome. Tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Thank you, Lauren. I'm so excited to be here. Business Over Cocktails. This is going to be fun. Chit-chatting, business, friends. I love it. I mean, you summed it up in the highest level, but essentially, it's a lot deeper. When we talk strategy, it's always the why questions to me. So I like to pull it way up to the top, all the way to the bottom. So that's where the unicorn comes in. That's what other folks have called me, and I adopted over time. But you won't hear it much because I don't like to water it down. It's just what it means that it's really hard to find and replicate someone who can understand the task that you're doing all the way up to the higher level strategy. Why are you doing what you're doing? Are you doing it in the places you should? Is it actually getting you where you want to go? Do you even know where you want to go? So a lot of us, I found, myself included a few years ago, started businesses for some inherent need. We didn't even call it a need probably. We called it a want. I wanted to quit working for the boss I was working for. I wanted to be home with my kids more. I want more flexibility. Someone has a want there. And then you find a couple clients on shaky knees and you're like, oh my God, it really worked. This is crazy. And now that's where I have fun. I'm like, okay, yeah, it did work. Now we don't have to survive anymore. We can actually start thinking about the art of what's possible and take off all the barriers, because we still have barriers. A lot of times there are self-limiting beliefs. So we remove all the barriers and we start to have fun with what does every day look like for you? What is the work you actually want to do versus what you said yes to because the client offered it and you wanted more money? So that's what I mean by getting out of survival. But you have to build that around a strategy that makes sure that the moves you're doing every day in your business and in your life are what you need to be doing to get you where you want to go. And we do that for every function of the business. That's where the unicorn comes in. So I don't just focus on sales. I don't just focus on if you have great systems to make sure you sell. We look at every area of your business.
Well, I think that you bring up an interesting point. Something that I thought of is there's a lot of content out in the world that is, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to be on YouTube, you need to be on TikTok, you need to be on all these things. And it's giving you that what energy, right? This is what you need to do to make more sales. This is what you need to do for XYZ. And I've had clients for, all my years in business. I've been in business now for 7 years. I've had clients across the board that are like, I can't make Instagram work for me. I can't make Facebook work for me. I can't make TikTok work for me. And so you bring up such an interesting point is you have to get to the why. Why? Why does this make sense for you, your business, your industry, whatever? So I've asked that question a lot to my clients as well. It's well, why are you trying to make it work if it doesn't work, or you don't want it to work, or if you don't want to show up? Why does this matter to you? So that's such a huge, huge, huge thing, because we have to connect that on a cellular level to ourselves and our businesses. So I love that you do that, because it is so easy to get that free advice every single day from 100 different sources, and they're telling you what you need to do to make XYZ dollars. And you have to really, truly understand why for you. So I love that you brought that up.
That's exactly what I was thinking when you said, they were saying, I can't make Instagram work. Well, why are you trying? Is that where you need to be too? So this is a piece of marketing people don't realize, especially in our space in the online industry, is marketing is messaging. It's a lot more than that. Have you ever heard of the 4 Ps of marketing? Place is one of those. So is Instagram the place that you need to be marketing your business? Is YouTube the place that you need to? If the market, if your ideal clients are there, then that's a yes. And the problem could be, so first you have to answer that. That's the why, that's the strategy. Now, if it is a yes and you still can't make Instagram work for you because you don't like it, that's a different story. Then that's delegation, that's outsourcing. Those are still strategy, CEO decisions, but you have to make sure you're answering that first. And the why of why people are telling you that, gurus online, because they have something to sell too. The moment LinkedIn started showing a little bit of success in our space, what did you see? We still do. Our LinkedIn folks popping up and like, that's it. And now everyone that knows anything about LinkedIn has an offer to sell. I have offers to sell too. So I'm not mad at it. I'm just like, you're seeing that noise, and the way that you cut through that noise is being really clear where you want to go. And then you start looking at like what you need to do to get there. And at some point, there's a next layer to that, is that we get you to a point as the CEO in your life and business that you don't have to think about the how either. Now that's a switch from like solopreneur and startup to growth. But at some point, it's the where. Where do you need to be marketing? The strategic component. Why am I doing this? Why are we doing these motions in our business? Is that where the people are? How are we talking to them? Are we making the sales we want? We're looking at the data to back that all up, right, and tell a story. At some point, you don't even worry about the how, right? You're having someone else do that, at least in certain components. You need to always live in the why you're doing it to make sure that it matters. Because if not, there's a spiral cycle there. Like it's a waste of resources, which is time, energy, money, all things we all joke all the time we wish we had more of, right? You can get it if you make smart decisions in your business.
And that all goes to like aligned action, right? Like, why does this make sense for our businesses? What is our purpose? Are we acting in our purpose? And then something that you mentioned before we hit record was that, how do I build my business, from surviving to thriving, but thriving in the sense of I'm going to get to where I want to be. And so that's something that I noticed from your social media, is that you talk a lot about like self-belief and aligned action. So when was that a turning point in your business for yourself? Like either starting this business or finding out that you're on the right path to what you want to do?
April 2024, a year and a half ago.
Okay.
I can almost get specific. So I started this business online, like, and the journey since then, I'd say then through the end of last year, like, because it became clear over time. It became clear as I started saying that and helping the clients, like a lot of us do. So in a way, last year I was still starting because I flipped my business on its head, because I did that too. I was like, okay, I'm really good at those things. Yes, I'm good at a lot of things. Hence the unicorn. Do I want to do those things? Is that exciting to me? Does it keep me wanting to show up? Am I passionate about the people on the other side that I'm supporting? And I couldn't answer any of those questions. So that was my turning point. I started in this space over 3 years ago now, as a virtual assistant, because that felt like my parallel. I was in the back end, I was in operations. I was still very unsure, and I had a lot of self-doubt. And so that year and a half then, from the start of my business through when I pivoted and I only do consulting and coaching now, really came from my own mentors, which helped develop my passion for doing that myself. It's like leadership has always been there, so we could take this back to like 15 years old, which I don't think we want to cover all today. But it was leaning into who I am naturally. I had stifled that for so long because I was in survival mode, because I needed the paycheck. I needed to be home with my kids at night. I needed these other things. And so I got those, and I allowed parts that actually I'm really great at and I really thrive in, like leadership, to just be stifled for a long time. So when I got out of that and I went on this journey of self-discovery, started my own business to make my own money, there's power in that anyways. So that kind of started opening up the possibilities a little bit, and you started leaning into like, okay, after I did the survival mode part, after I started to make a little money, it was like, this still isn't it. Like I'm way past this, just doing tasks in someone else's business, like we're way beyond that. So then the turning point happened while getting clearer on that, starting to understand the online space anyways, because I hadn't been in the space specifically with like VAs and the operational capacity you could bring to someone like that. I had worked in other businesses operationally, right, as an employee. So starting to learn like what that looks like for me, how I bring offers to the table. I went on that journey, also realizing I was never being honest with myself about my capabilities, about the ability I bring to the table, about where I actually am a powerhouse coupled with what I enjoy doing. I got really clear on that at the start of last year, and through that, then through offers and like supporting people. So that was a long answer to your question of when it switched for me. But I mean, I did a podcast episode on this too, so we can get really specific on like the moment. When I say the moment it switched for me, it's because for me, again, it was really up here. I was blocking myself. It was my own mentor. She's a CEO of now like several successful tech companies. And her reminders in settings that I thought I didn't belong in, with a C-suite specifically, where I was doing like project management work and they would bring me into the rooms. Like she started bringing me into the room and I'm like, why? These are so important. That's the CEO. That's this chief technology officer. Like these people are all so smart. And so I was in there like breaking out, like having freaking headaches and like a red chest because I was like, sweaty pits. You don't know what you're talking. You don't know more than them for sure. So like, why would you speak up? You know, I was wrong. I didn't believe that. She helped me see that because then she would tell me outside of that room, like when I would say something very smart because I was comfortable with her. That's really smart. Like you drew a line that I didn't see. You saw a gap that I didn't see. Do you realize what that means? Like you should say that next time. And so then like I would, still with a red chest, still terrified, still getting a headache because I'm going to sound dumb. Like they know these things. They have to, right? They're older than me. They're smart. They've been doing this longer. They have fancy titles. And then I would do that. And she would immediately pad that. This is where the mentorship comes in my own business and why I do it. Because I realized that business knowledge is not enough. I had that. I didn't know I had that. It was a mindset problem. So I try to couple both. Here's all your foundational business knowledge, all that why we just talked about, what you need to do, how you do it. This is all fun. Yay. But also, if you don't know that you know all that, if you don't start to trust your instincts, if you don't start to believe in yourself and get confident in using your voice and showing up like that, your mismatch, one's going to fall apart. Like you're still going to be holding yourself back. So she was able to do that for me. When I did do it on the shaky knees, other people in the room too would be like, oh, wow, smart. Oh, yeah, let's try that, whatever the case was. But she would immediately come in and was like, that was brilliant. Do it again. Until over time, I was like, oh, she's totally right. Like, I know something they don't. I do have operational advantage over them, right? I can see the gaps. I can help them fill in gaps and grow their businesses and think through things they don't. Because, one, they're not a unicorn. Just because they had the fancy title, like in these cases, they were fancy in their line. Like, they couldn't switch over lines and do other things. They're not sitting in that strategy like that sits as like the ball in the entirety of your business. So I could trace it back specifically to that time frame of when that started happening for me. That was more like end of 2023, like that time frame. So I'd been in my business for a while and started to see like, okay, you were, I hate to say only a VA because I'm obsessed like that. We, especially in this space, like they're running their businesses, they're marketing, they're doing the hard part. They're not only a VA, but I had much more to bring to the table. And so I was still not quite as unhappy as my 9 to 5, where like my leadership and everything was being stifled because I could certainly be a leader. But I started paying attention to that. I was being a leader in the space. I was leading a lot of other folks. So I just decided at some point that I stopped with all of my operational support and I only did consulting and coaching for those folks because that's now like where my passion lies in my zone of genius.
I literally was going to ask you this question. You kind of already answered it, but we can go, I think, a little deeper. But my question was, you're often called a unicorn for seeing invisible threads in business. What's your process for seeing what others might miss? And you kind of touched on that just now, where the one thing I wanted to bring up was, yes, those people in the C-suite are very good at what they do. They're unicorns in their own given right, in their jobs, in their careers. And that's a lot of times, that's the argument that I like to pose to people when they have either limiting beliefs when it comes to, say that they're a social media manager helping other social media managers, or they're business coaches helping other businesses, and those businesses are making more money than they are. That's not, that argument I hate, because we are specific in what we can help with in another person's business, and what we bring to the table is very unique and it's going to help them scale, right? There's no way, unless you are actually the owner or CEO, co-founder of a business. A lot of times we see the rhetoric of, I help my clients scale to, or they made $20,000 after they started working with me. But like having that little bit of the specificity of, yes, I help them with their marketing, but that person's still selling, doing all the things, right? So I sit very firm with like, yes, what we can bring to the table is going to help people making more money than us and help them make even more money because of the things that they need help with that are unique to us. And so what I want to ask you then is, when you are helping those businesses, and especially in that role that you had, why do you think, you're called the unicorn, but how do you think you see what other people miss?
I love that question. And I'll take it back to like, I would say I would push back a little bit on like those people, like we talk about the C-suite, so we could stay there for a little while. but them being unicorns, like in their own lane, in their own right, I would actually say them being in a lane means that they're not a unicorn, because that's the thing, right? The unicorn is
Mm.
mythical. It's so magical, like it doesn't really even exist. Like that's the thing. You have this broad range. And so that's where it came. I hate to refer to myself like that, by the way. I'm just doing it because that's what other people did. And I had to do that reflection of like, okay, this is the third time. Now, someone that was a real fancy interior designer, right? So we can take it out of the C-suite, real fancy interior designer that I was honored to be working with. Initially, I did not enjoy after a while for like operational misalignment boundary reasons. I was like, no, not for me. So I decided to offboard them. And in finding a replacement person and working with someone to do that, it was said like, okay, well, you won't find a type A of Stephanie. She's a unicorn, but we can get like the closest in a type B. So I was like, why? Like, that's where I had to reflect. That's where I started to learn, like, what I bring to the table, what differentiates it is because I can span a lot of that. So you kind of nailed it earlier, too, when you were like, we see people that are like, focus on Instagram. We see this when people are told to niche down. I don't niche down. I know that I made it harder on myself in marketing because I'm not just going to tell someone how to sell really well. Because you can market really well. This is an example I see too much. You can market really well, and then you can get someone to that offer because you also sold well enough thanks to your marketing, and you get them in there and the delivery falls flat because you actually suck at delivery or client service. To me, all of those matter. They do. When you study strategic management like I did, but also work and strategy, that's the unicorn component, is that and again, sitting like at the center, I'm not tied to, this is the fun part of operations too. You're not loyal to like a team. When you get into an organization or a company specifically, you run into all that hierarchy crap that it makes it really like hard to be effective because you run into like the CTO, the tech people, they are very passionate about what they're building on the tech side, right? And they're loyal to that. Well, the marketers are really, really loyal about how they craft that messaging and tell the world about it. And that's their zone. And those can like do this if they don't agree. I don't care about any of that. Like I care about all of it. In strategy, in operations like that, in strategic management, it all has to work well. So I want to know what you're building, why you're building it. That's our development. Is it what the market needs? Like, have you validated that? And then you develop it, right? Then we're looking at your marketing. Like, are you talking to the right people in the right places, saying the right thing? Are you positioned, like what you bringing? Are you positioning that actually as like what it is? Are those two things matched? Is that clear? Your operations, are you doing it as efficiently as possible? Because like, Lauren, this is a long way to answer your question, but what happens on the other side of all of this, if we don't look at kind of every area of your business, that's what brings the unicorn component, is that I can do that. I'm not saying I'm now doing it for you. I'm a great referral partner if anyone needs a referral partner, because I am going to recommend someone that to then do it for you. And I can. I've decided for a while not to do done for you, and I won't say I'm never doing it again, but it's that. It's then, okay, and looking at it as an entire journey, because it is. What you develop is your development. How you market that is one thing. How you sell that. Are you confident on your calls and in your prices? Are you breaking down and going back on them? That's costing you money. It's also costing you headache. It's also costing you your long-term goals because you're not making the revenue you want to. Then again, client delivery. Are you doing the best you can? Are you taking it that one extra step? That's where the unicorn comes in, is like, what extra thing are you doing that makes them so obsessed with you that they repeat or they send you clients because they're so excited? Because you know what that is? That's free marketing. That word of mouth is free marketing. So boom, now you're saving money again. So now we're being operationally efficient in a way you didn't even tie back to operations because you're getting free marketing. So if you're getting free marketing and you never have to go actively look for clients or rarely do, that affects how much you have to show up on social media if you don't like Instagram. All of it matters. That's where the unicorn comes in, is like, is it the right moves? Because there are, 50 platforms you could market on just on social media right now. Do you need to be all of them? What do you need to be doing? Are you doing a little bit extra again for your clients, like sending them a handwritten thank you note at some point? Like, we look at all of this based on what you want to be doing and bring it back down. We start reverse engineering from there. So you're not spinning your wheels in all these wrong, like incorrect, areas that get you to the wrong destination.
I love all of that. And you also you also answered my next question a little bit, where you mentioned client delivery, right? Like a lot of, and I feel like that's a very common thing where, yes, you might, like, I feel like everyone, if we were to say what everyone's first task is or what their most time consuming task is, everyone wants to create content essentially, right? Like everyone's always concerned about marketing and content and social media, that, sales fall off by the wayside, but then for sure client experience. so we mentioned delivery, and then you mentioned like client experience, but what are some other common misses that you've seen in businesses that you've mentored?
So I'm not sure if this is where you're going to the question, but it's something we haven't touched on yet and comes to me is there's more than just those kind of functions I talked about. So there's more than like your development, yes, your delivery, all of this. But when it comes back again to the strategy and the why, it all is to get you where you want to go. And that day to day, that's where the importance is for me. Like if we could wipe everything we said, we can't wipe everything we said today. Because if I just said this statement, people would be like, okay, I don't get it. That's not enough. But what I really want to see happen is that women and historically underrepresented entrepreneurs wake up in a couple of years and like they're excited about their life. They're at peace for the first time, maybe if they have struggled with peace, they're content, they're excited. I'm not saying that business is always like, this is so much fun. Like it's hard, there's ups and downs and all of that, but that you feel like it's intentional, like what you did, what you built today, even if today is hard, you've had the system and processes to work through that hard stuff in your business. That all to me matters. So the business is the vessel to get there. And that's why you have to run it all effectively. Like it is your business then. To run that effectively is the vessel really to just live the life you want to live. Like that's what I want to see for people. So that's the other component. And you started to talk about, so like you mentioned earlier, like what's my process? You were going to ask me and I kind of answered it, but I'll tie all this together. What I mean, one of the big things I'm starting to do, because like I said, I refined my offers in the last year and I feel really clear on how I need to do all of this with people. We do audits after we start at that big part, that big vision that's like, let's be for real for once, because you haven't yet. The big, scary vision of your future, you're probably keeping in here. When you think about it, you're like, probably not in the cards for me, probably not anytime soon, whatever. Because, you just got out of survival mode and you kind of just had a little successful business. And now I want you to get ultra clear on what the day-to-day feels like, the type of work, how exciting, what people are saying about your business, what you feel like every day. We start with that, but then the next layer, so that's the future state. We start with the current state right now and we do audits for it. But I don't just audit your operations. I don't just audit your client experience because there's more to running a business. There's your life and energy. So we're going to audit that too. Like, how are you feeling week to week in your business? Are you feeling you have the energy? Are you feeling like you have the creative space to think through new offers? Are you running on like -10? What's going on there? So we're auditing. And then like leadership is another big one because I've noticed a gap in our space. With a lot of the times with the people I support is a lot of virtual service providers and stuff like that. We're service-based entrepreneurs. The people that need the support isn't only them and running their business, it's who they're working for and the mismatched expectations there. And so starting to like train those folks to be leaders too, how to communicate directly, how to hold boundaries and state their needs, how to like all of these components. So it is really just like the whole kind of well-rounded business we want to look at. So my process is that it's starting at like the future state of what everything looks and feels like for real for the first time. And then what you're currently doing in all of these areas now suddenly. So I turned those gaps that I could feel and see a couple years ago into a process essentially of like, look at it. Now actually you have your gaps. You have where you're going. Now you have your audits of what you're doing. This whole thing here, that's some sort of gaps. It's obviously, it's more complex than that because it's like maybe you're doing some of what you shouldn't be. So we dial that back. Maybe it's not Instagram, for instance. So like we need to take that down completely. But what is it? You have to market your business somewhere. If you're not fully stacked on clients all the time without trying, then that means you need some sort of marketing. So is it the right place? So those gaps. And then we have to turn that into actions because likely, let's say just mythically you have 15. Those aren't all the same time commitments and resources. When can you do them? What order should you do them? What's most important to get you like one at a time? And starting to get realistic, that's how then you get satisfaction sooner than 2 to 3 years from now. Because you don't try to do all 15 of those in the next 3 months because your success hinges on that. No, you start to make it realistic towards what you can do right now.
Mm-hmm. And so going back to then how you help people kind of like, again, looking up here, like you want to arrive here. How do you want your day-to-day to look? Like, what does that look like when you're not just surviving day-to-day? Now, one thing that I read, I think it was a piece of content of yours recently where it was like, you mentioned that success is built by living in the present and not stressing about the finish line. And so, when we are out of surviving mode and you mentioned too, like, oh, like maybe not one day, or maybe that's further down the road. So how do you get people, I guess, like if someone is the opposite, like I want to be there yesterday, or I want to work as hard as I can, to get to that dream life or that dream day to day, how do you, I guess, mentor them? And then how do you also own that aspect in your own life and business?
Well, first off, you have to lean into people's strengths, which I think that coaches a lot of times struggle with or miss, maybe. At least I've seen focusing on that. Strengths, personalities, weaknesses, and stuff like this. So it makes, well, it's one reason why I like to live in one-on-one so much, because then I can do that. Then I can make it. Like, we have to also work with ourselves a bit. I do this a lot because I'm neurodivergent. I have ADHD. There are a lot of things that you get from gurus online and stuff that I'm like, not going to do that. It's another reason why I held myself back for so long because of that, because I wasn't working with what makes sense for me. You've heard me say this. It took me 2 years to finally do my podcast because I was like, I have to pick one thing and one topic and like be well known for it because that's what people were saying. And I was like, no, you don't. Not if you're a unicorn and you can help a lot of people over like a range. Like, no, you don't. So leaning into that and leaning into your strengths and also paying attention to your weaknesses, that's one way to do it. Also, data. Like, I love data, and data doesn't always have to be numbers. A lot of times it is, and I love those more than all of it. But data is showing these people logically a couple of things. And like in the case where you're like, well, I wanted to be there yesterday. Okay. Well, first, that's actually impossible because yesterday's gone. But if you wanted to be there in 3 months, let's talk about what that's going to look like. Because the first thing that's going to happen is they realize, one, maybe it is possible. It's going to take a lot of time and resources. Do you have those resources? Time is resource. So do you have that, or can you pay for someone else's time to do it? Like, can we fast track certain things? We can have that conversation for sure. If it's not realistic, that's going to come out of the conversation. And at least we're going to taper your expectations. And what we're padding into that, Lauren, is like, that's where your mindset comes in. That's where your work-life balance comes in, because most people don't want to work the time or don't have the resources it would take to get there in that short amount of time. Once they start seeing like you can for about 60 hours a week, or doing this load or doing this part yourself or whatever the case is, it becomes, okay, so most of the time what people want is that clarity. It's not like a destination in a couple of years that they want to be to. They feel relief the moment they get clarity from what we just said, of knowing for the first time, most likely, that future, that what they want every day to look and feel like, that they even know what it is. For the first time, they're clear there. Because again, they're probably swallowing it back down and definitely not saying it out loud. I was doing that. I was like, whatever. That's all a lot of money. Like, I'm not going to travel that frequently. That's not going to happen. I'm not going to be all this. You're talking yourself out of it. So first we get really clear on what that all is. And then when we do those audits and we're like, what are you currently doing? Then we start to put that in order of priority. So once we kind of find those gaps, right? So there's more to the process. What I'm describing, by the way, is a strategic plan. This is literally what corporations do this time of year. Actually, September through like November, December, they'll be setting it for the next year. The 3 to 5 years they already have, and like their mission and vision, they'll recheck and make sure that's happening. A lot of us haven't done it, so I have to start there with that like bigger future vision, and I'm not going to make it corporate because that's not fun. There's a purpose behind all of this. So when you start with that, and then we do the audits, and now you're like all these other areas, we start looking at it strategically, like I mentioned. Is where are you marketing? Is it the right place? Is that where your people are? Are you pricing correctly? Are you showing up confidently? Do we need to work on your sales calls or how you're showing up for people? All of these components, we jot those all down. You cannot do those all at once. Realistically, like no one can, unless you already have a really well-run business, in which case you didn't hire me. You already have a strategic plan. So you're good. So we get to this point and now we have all of that, but we have to make it into an actual action plan. So what's, if there's 15 things there, what's one, put them 1 through 15 in order of priority. You also want to get some sense of the lift of them. So it's like one thing, 2 hours is 1:15. Sometimes it's hard to quantify, but some sort of idea of what it's going to take a lot of times. So what'll happen is like what may be most important to you, Lauren, it might be marketing. Like that could be falling short. But if we're doing the same thing at the same time, for me, it could be operations. Maybe I'm really great at showing up and talking about what I'm doing, but I'm spending hours doing it because I'm not efficient. Or I get those leads and they're falling through the cracks because I'm not efficient in tracking them and following up with them. So like leaving money on the table, blah, blah, blah. What people need are going to be different based on their areas of expertise, the resources they have to give. So when people start to see that, then they might see, shoot, it's not going to be 3 months and it's not going to be yesterday. But typically they don't think that way is what I find, because they feel relief and clarity and seeing it for the first time. They're like, okay, so like in January, we're going to do this thing. And then like in February, we're going to have this sprint and do it. And then we'll focus on this other thing. And over time, you start to see it come together, and probably a lot more clarity than that original plan. So we have to iterate on that strategic plan anyway, because you get excited about a certain area, or you see something, you have that breakthrough, you see something start to happen. And so they lean in there and start getting excited. But that's how we also refocus. So now we have all that. Like fast forward, we have what you're going to do. We have an action plan based on data, what you're doing, what you want to be doing, and hopefully some data of already what's happening, and we're looking at it. And then we start to monitor data again. We go back to it. So we're doing these things, then we start to look at it. What's happening? Are you having the conversations with the people? If it was marketing, are you actually finding that you're saving time now that you put some efficiencies in place? Now people are getting those shorter hits of dopamine, if you will. So like they're not there, this hypothetical destination. Sure, they're not, but they know that they're taking action to get there because they can see it, the proof in the pudding, and we start to monitor that and make sure it makes sense. But then you always have to come back to, like, that's why I call it your North Star, essentially, in this like bigger vision. Because let's say if you have ADHD like me, there's going to be some new cool ideas all the time. Next year, as I'm marching and I got my cool little plan, I'm going to want to do this thing. What you then have to start doing is operating like the C-suite of your company, because you are, in some way, shape, or form. You have to funnel it back through, but like, is that going to take me where I want to go? This is where I said I'm really clear on that. Is that going to take me there? If it's a no, then it's absolutely, you can't do it. Sorry, put it somewhere on an idea dump that you don't pull up. If it's a yes, where does it go? Because again, you're clear on your time and resources to give and all now. So where is it number one? Is it like an ultra priority because something happened in the market and you need to shift? Cool. So then again, you remain clear. Now, what is to say that that North Star doesn't change? I want to be clear on that too, because that can. What I want to do 2 to 3 years could certainly change. So that's okay. Change that. And now if it's a yes, cool. But if that hasn't changed and this is not aligning to it, we're not spinning our wheels there. We're not getting distracted. We're not doing that.
You mentioned tapering expectations, and I think that's a huge thing a lot of business owners, at least the people that I've mentored over the years, struggle with. Because, and again, we're on the internet and social media and seeing content all of the time. And we're seeing someone have a successful launch or make a lot of money. And granted, there's so many layers to that. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But I think that instantly puts us into some sort of mood, right? And then we're like, well, okay, well, yes, if they can do it, I can do it. I firmly believe that. But in the timeline, a lot of times is unrealistic, because I love what you said and how you made it logical sense, is look at what is going on in your life and your business right now. Kids going to sports, like including everything in that. And how many hours a day do you actually have to dedicate to all of these things? And then can you hire someone? Can you afford to hire someone? And yes, the vision is important, but then you have to be realistic in that timeline and then the expectations you put on yourself. And that is actually something I struggled with probably a few years ago, where, again, I was in that loop of, all these people are making all this money. Like, why can't I do it? And I would want to just push through, and I would want to, rather than plan and be strategic about it, I was just doing with no rhyme or reason. And I was instantly setting myself up for failure because I wanted this, right? I wanted this dollar amount. I wouldn't get it. Then I would be upset. And then if I was upset, I wouldn't show up how I needed to show up. And then I would think I was a failure, and I would think I would never get to that goal. And so it's just like this vicious circle we put ourselves in because we're not, A, thinking strategically, B, we're not focused on like the why, right? Like we talked about the why of why we do what we do, but also that when you think of like where you want to be in your business and in your life, yes, okay, I can think about it and I'm clear, but like going back to the why, like, why did I want that dollar amount? I don't know. Like there wasn't a reason behind it. There was just, I want more and more and more. And if you aren't like grounding that into a why or a purpose or alignment, then that vision isn't clear. And so I love all the things that you're saying and how clear you're making for people, because for my logical brain, I'm very data focused as well. It makes a lot of sense to just like eliminate the noise and take your mood out of it, take your emotions out of it, operate like the C-suite executive that you are. So I love that you said those things.
Yeah, 2 things that stand out to me here, Lauren, is first, like, you have to eliminate the noise. You said that. So if like you're still in a place where you're listening to the gurus, because we're all trying to sell something here. So there is going to be conflicting information of like where you should focus and what you should do. That's the whole point of the strategy, of the why. Like you said, is if you can't answer for yourself why you need to do this thing, why you need to build this project, why you need this other offer, why, if you can't answer that and how it plays into it, then you can't validate any reason why you should be there. If you can't like look at the data, if you can't look at where your people are and figure that stuff out. So grounding yourself in the logic. Also, when it comes to like that component of seeing what the people are doing and being like, oh, mine didn't go that way. What do they have that I don't? What are they doing differently? We're all in different places. Like we are all in different places. And this is where finding your tribe a lot of times makes sense. This is where like I'm a mom. It's a huge part of what I do. It's a huge part of my life. But there's only so much of that you see on my social media. You cannot ignore the fact that anything I do right now is filtered through the time I have in the day outside of taking care of my kids and actually taking care of my disabled brother. So an example that I can give is like Jillian Murphy. Do you know who that is? Jillian?
Mhm.
Okay. So I met her at a conference April earlier this year, and then we had like a virtual coffee meet after. And I was learning about her and she was learning about me. And when I found out like she does a lot of one-on-one and she meets, like this was a conversation with Jillian, that I had. And she mentioned, I was like, how? First off, you do a lot of one-on-one because there are finite number of, like, so what I like to do, but you hear a lot of people leaning into like communities and selling broader and all of that for making money. And like you cap yourself out at one-on-one. She's like, I'm in a very different place than a lot of people. You cannot forget that. My kid is grown and gone. And I love my work. Like I love doing that. So I spend a lot of time and I'm cool with that. There are going to be other people, me right now, this is very new for me. I work with a lot of women in the space that have done this for years, but I haven't. I've been a mom for a long time, 12 years actually. But the whole time I've run my business, I've still had childcare. Like I have to work when I work. I need the focus time. I need the deep stuff. For the first time, I'm working on like 4 or 5 hours in my business. And we'll see after a couple months. Again, it's monitoring and testing. And I had to be honest with myself about what that means, about I might have to say no to certain collaborations. I have to be very strategic in what I'm saying yes to. Is it where I should be spending my time? You have to start doing these things. And that's going to be different based on where you're at in your business and where you want to go. And the time you have to give, 4 hours is very different from 8 to 10, some of which plenty of people still like to work and do. I totally okay with that. And I believe that when my kids are gone, because I love to work, especially now when I love what I do and who I'm helping, I'm cool with doing more of it, but I can't right now. So everything I have to do, I'm going to do in a more limited capacity than someone who isn't, who's doing more and can and enjoys it and isn't taking care of young kids. The whole, like, we all have 24 hours in a day, it's just not true because what I'm doing in my 24 hours is different than what you're doing in yours that's different than someone else's. So when you think of where someone is, you just can't measure against that unless you're measuring the entire story, which to your point, if you're seeing the success online, you're not, unless they're letting you in the back of their business. You're only seeing the marketing lens, which means I need to tell you that I sold out my mastermind. I don't need to tell you why. I'm going to because I'm strategy and it comes into how you sell and selling is important. So I'm going to tell you all that. But many people aren't. Or they're going to say 6 figures and you're going to be like, cool, but how many people are you paying in the back end? Like, are you taking home 6 figures? So you just have to you have to see through the marketing lens and you have to put your own, C-suite cap on and think about your own business and where you want to go. Otherwise, you're always going to be comparing with the wrong measuring stick.
Mm-hmm. I always equate to some of those claims of if someone doubles their, salary over a year, right? I just doubled my income. How do we know it's not $1 to $2, right? Like
Exactly.
that's such an exaggerated example, but that's so true. It's like maybe someone made $100 last year, now they made $200, and I always have to remind people of that. But we're talking more about again, anchoring in their why. How can women begin to reconnect with their own why or why they started their business in the first place, especially when they feel overwhelmed or unclear or that they've just been surviving in their business so long?
So typically, I don't actually want someone to answer why they started their business. Like, be aware of it, cool, put it in a Google document and then walk away. Because what I find, myself included, and people I work with, is that is different. Like, that was the survival. Like, for me, it was because I was miserable working for a really possessive, stifling boss. Like, I couldn't step across the hallway and give advice to a coworker. And guess what I do, Lauren? All I do now is give advice. I get paid for it. So it took a long time for it to creep up on me and realize I was miserable because I just wanted to be home with my family every night. So for me, it was a little bit of both. I wanted to make more rules about my life. This was like post-COVID. This was had a new baby. This was like, we don't care what's happening. You come to work kind of stuff. And so it was a full big picture for me, but like it was still based on survival. So I want you to connect to, and women especially struggle with this, what you want your freaking life to look like every single day. And I say a year or two from now because like most of us can't flip on the switch and then make it happen next month. We'll talk about it, but like, we just covered that. So it's like, why do you want to do it now? What are you doing it for now? Because most likely you're starting to feel a little bit, thanks to a lot of what you see online, that there's more out there, that maybe you're more specialized than you realize. Maybe you have more expertise. Maybe you really like doing these things these clients ask you, but didn't. Maybe you really like slow mornings and you never had that opportunity and you still struggle with that a little bit. So you want to build in slow mornings. So first off, I would say get connected to why you want to still do it now and why you want to be doing it in 3 years. Because again, it's very few of us are so obsessed with our businesses that we want to do it 24 hours a day. It's a vessel for us to do what we actually want to be doing all of the time. Some of which what we're doing inside of our businesses is cool. But I also do want to read a good book sometimes. I also do want to travel. I also do want to hang out with my kids before they don't care about me anymore. So how I'm building my business to allow me to do that, those are the different things now. That's how I've gotten out of survival mode. How women and historically underrepresented groups can do this is actually the reason why I support those groups. It's because we've never been afforded the space to do so. It's always been a need for someone else, is that you have to make the space to sit with that and realize what it all is. Like that can be an extra 30 minutes to an hour in your day. I can't journal, but I can like scribble, scrabble. I can just go sit outside. I can just go take a walk in the woods. I have to get away from the computer. You have to get away from the doom scroll. You have to get away from what everyone's doing and all of that, because then you're getting to like the how and the what and the comparison. And it's just sit with it and start to allow yourself to actually dream. It sounds so freaking like when you say it like that, it's like, oh yeah, I'll just dream it into existence, Stephanie. But that's not what I mean. We're going to get to the how and all of that fun stuff eventually. But most of us, especially women, have never been afforded the time because we're caretakers for other people. Like everyone else comes first. So we haven't even stopped to consider putting ourselves first or what that looks like or what that means. So I encourage people to find the time and space in the day-to-day or week-to-week. It might not be 30 minutes a day. It might be 2 or 3 hours on Friday where you like go have coffee and you go for your walk or you go to the beach, where you don't do anything for anyone else. You don't consider other people's responsibilities or what needs to be cooked for dinner or anything else. You just think about you and what would feel good to you day to day. And that starts to be empowering too, because then you start to like feel it. And so you start to get clear on what you want. And then you become more engaged in what it will take to get there and more committed to learning what it'll take to get there.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I have anything to add. That was really good. But but I have one more question to ask you. What's lighting up for you in your business now?
Everything. I'm not going to keep it like that. I'll actually answer. But because of like, it can't be lost on everyone that listens that I spent a long time getting my own clarity, right? I did the same things that I help people avoid now, which is like creating offers to like, to make a little money. Yeah. And now this year, because I monitored that, I created offers. I put someone in each of them. I over deliver as always. So it wasn't just like this beta test round where they didn't get enough. And now I got really clear on like what people need, what is actually helpful. And I'm bringing that to life. A lot of what I described to you today in my mastermind that starts in October. So that's what I'm most excited about right now, is doing this with a larger group than just one person, but small enough with 10 people that we can dig deep and I can start to see that like art of what's possible light bulb come on for this group of folks who have done that, who like lived in survival mode, who started a business and like they now found success, but they also haven't stopped to consider like, well, is this what I want to be doing in 3 years? Like everything, what does that look like? So I'm really excited to go super deep with a really intimate group of people. And as you know, too, I launched my podcast into July. So I'm excited to just keep iterating on that and talking. And then because I am an operations and planning nerd, I'm excited to do my own planning like in this next month for the future of Steph Rubio. Like, what does that look like? Where am I showing up? Right now, it's just been conferences and speaking engagements is going to be my focus, but I am now going to validate, is that why? Where do I want to, what makes sense for me to get my message and my support out to the most amount of people?
Mm-hmm.
I'm having fun.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, but after our conversation today, I have one more call after our recording today, and I have like a whole afternoon of no calls, and I'm just like, I'm going to do that today. Today is going to be the day that I'm going to plan like for next year and I typically do that, but you just motivated me to just like do it now because I love planning and I love the strategy and I love creating plans like that. And again, it makes so much sense of just, again, anchoring in what you want to do and the why and what makes the most sense for your business. So I think there's so many good themes in this conversation, and thank you. How can we connect with you? What's the best way?
The best way is honestly Instagram. I mean, people can listen to the podcast. I think you'll find a lot of value there. Is why I do it, because I can pack a lot into a short conversation. But that's a one-sided conversation. So my preference is really find me on Instagram. My handle is at virtually _ Steph Rubio. I'm really active over there, not only sharing like shorter tidbits, because that's what the algorithm demands, right? The shorter reels and stuff, hence the purpose of a podcast. But I'm active in that you can actually talk to me in the DMs. You can respond. And I like to get to know people. It was missing from our market from a long time. We've sat in our little home offices for years now. We've gotten really stifled, and we're seeing that shift in the market. And I'm very proud of starting to champion that early last year, April of 2025. As I mentioned, I was like, I'm sick of these emojis for the sake of engagement. What are people actually doing? Like, what are you having fun doing right now, Lauren? Like, are you excited? Is anything driving you nuts? And growing actual relationships. So Instagram is definitely the best place to hang out with me right now.
Amazing. And all of your links will be in the show notes, your podcast, all of the ways to connect with you. And you mentioned that you might be speaking in 2026 at more events. So
Yes.
Go and see Steph. All of that stuff will probably be posted on our Instagram. You can go meet Steph in person. And I just want to say thank you so much. I think there's so many elements in this that I know for a lot of my clients and people who I speak with struggle with a lot of these things. And again, as women, I think we struggle with it too. So I think this was such an important conversation, and thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and for the engaging questions. They spark the conversation. So that always makes it more fun.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Over Cocktails, where real stories and bold business moves come to life. If this episode lit something up in you, share it with a friend, tag me at Lauren Najar or the podcast page at Business Over Cocktails. Make sure to leave a quick review as well. It helps more than you know. Until next time, keep chasing what matters and building the business that feels like you. Cheers!